much fuel you got left?
Bill Harris in Hollywood. As everyone looks ahead to the 1990s, we take a look back with the master movie maker of our time. From E.T. to Indiana Jones to always his latest, Time to Talk with Steven Spielberg.
You magnificent pagan god!
For the record, the Christmas present of last year, E.T. the Extraterrestrial on tape. But isn't it true that it wasn't studio bigwigs? It wasn't the honchos that dictated it. It was your nieces, your nephews, people like them?
Yeah, it was everybody in my life and everybody on the street, you know, that said, you've got to release it on tape. And it was really, you know, the old phrase, by popular demand. We used to hear that years ago. And that's what it was. It was really by popular demand. And I felt almost irresponsible if I didn't give it to the people that wanted it.
Kept it from them.
Yeah, I felt bad about that after a while.
I'm keeping him.
You told the British press 8 months ago that your son Max still watches E.T., but still covers his eyes during the scary parts. Has he finally seen it all?
He has seen it all. I mean, he still, because now he's seen it so many times, he knows that E.T. is okay at the beginning, and he's not scary, and it's not a monster, it's not a troll, it's a real mensch.
At what age will he be able to see Jaws, Daddy?
Oh, not until he's at least in his 30s. I think at least in his 30s.
If it's true,
I'm keeping that one away from him.
If it's true, you never really forget your first. Jaws was that first great blockbuster. And for all you've done in the meantime, if you look back, was that shark pretty primitive now, or still something special?
No, it's pretty primitive now. When you look at the technology that goes into the making of E.T. and into the making of a lot of prosthetic, you know, famous film monsters. Jaws was pretty crude, but in its day, it was the state of the art. I mean, there were more red and orange and blue tubes of pneumatics and hydraulics coming out of this thing. We had a 90-foot underwater platform that was sunk 40 feet underwater with a huge arm that would get the shark to, like, come out of the water and attack. And it was like a big erector set. It never worked, but it was a big erector set anyway.
It worked for the audience. That's all that matters.
Yeah, it worked for the audience. A lot of that was because the shark didn't work. I think the blessing in disguise was the shark didn't work that well, and didn't report for work when the actors were ready to work, and because of that, we had to find other invention to make the movie scary.
Well, another blockbuster, Close Encounters. Is it a true story that you missed your only chance of a close encounter because you missed a Boy Scout outing and everybody else saw something?
Yeah, they all saw something but me. It was one overnight. We had one overnight a month, and it was the one I missed. I was sick, had the flu. And all the scouts that Monday came to school and said we saw a flying saucer, what they thought was one.
Just this year, you said the proudest moment of my life was when I became an Eagle Scout.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the proudest moment of my life really was when Max was born. But looking backwards, the second proudest moment, I think, was when, yeah, it was right there. That was a wonderful thing that happened. I mean, for one thing, I'm very involved in scouting, and I'm a big scouting advocate. I think it's great for kids, not just inner city kids, not just underprivileged kids, but all kids, everywhere, just kids. It's a great thing. I mean, it shaped me. It really did shape my life. And I'm not quite sure I would be making movies without having been part of the Boy Scouts. But being able to talk to modern scouts of the 80s and 90s.
A cinematography merit badge now, Stephen?
Yeah, they're different than they were when I was a kid.
Another movie, of course, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. A Steven Spielberg quote, and what did you mean when you said, the biggest thrill was putting Sean Connery and Harrison Ford together in a scene, yelling action, and then trying not to laugh?
Yeah, well, when you're making a movie that is supposed to be a serious adventure film, with comic overtones. But I laughed more than the film deserved to be laughed with. And those guys were funny together. Sean was especially funny after the camera cut. He did his funniest things when the camera wasn't on him, because he's a very funny man, Sean Connery. If you don't know him, he can keep the whole set, he can keep the morale of the whole set up single-handedly.
So he has no pants on.
He did a whole scene with Harrison with no pants on, the scene at the table talking about why the father-son thing never connected in the dirigible. Harrison and Sean did it without pants on because it was hot, and Sean took his off, and Harrison wouldn't be bested.
What book? You have the diary in your pocket.
You don't. Do you think my son would be that stupid that he would bring my diary all the way back here? You didn't, did you? You didn't bring it, did you?
Well,
You did.
Look, can we discuss this later?
I should have mailed it to the Marks, bro. Will you take it easy? Take it easy? Why do you think I sent it home in the first place? So it wouldn't fall into their hands. I came here to save you. Oh, yeah? And who's going to come to save you, Junior?
With the advent of Always, is it fair to say that magic and romance are back in the Spielberg manner?
I hope so, because it's a favorite subject of mine. It's a favorite topic to make a film out of. And I've never made one out of the subject of romance before, until now. But it's also been missing, I think, in the newspapers when you open up the movie section. You know, you find action, comedy, adventure, suspense, horror, but you don't really find romance. There have been films that have had romantic interludes, but I sort of went for it. I said, I want to make a romantic picture. Not where the romance is hinted at, but we'll just go ahead and open up all the floodgates and do it. And that's what was fun.
I've not gone weak in the knees.
I know.
I've gone weak in the head.
God, you're beautiful.
I love you.
I know.
So tell me you love me. Please, 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 please. Tell me, tell me, tell me. Oh, tell me, tell me. Please tell me, tell
Why? I'm
me.
not in front of all these people.
You mean Carl?
The Budweiser? The 89?
Thank you, Carl.
To us.
Always.
You've also used Richard Dreyfuss now 3 times in film. What does he bring to a Spielberg picture?
A reality, and a feeling that the movie's reality-based, that it's really happening. That it's not that much. Richard will bring the fantasy down, because so many people identify with Richard, of the characters he plays, because he plays realistic people. Even when he's playing a hotshot pilot in this, there's still a real sense of earthiness to Richard. And I didn't want a movie star, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want, I would have never hired Brad Johnson, who plays Ted, to play Pete, for instance. Because Brad looks like the stereotypical movie star. I wanted Pete and Dorinda to have a realistic relationship, the kind we could have and have had in our lives. And Richard sort of brings all my movies that he's in, Jaws, Close Encounters, always down to earth, which is good for the film, good for me.
We don't give away anything by saying it's a movie about a man with an angel on his shoulder. And you have the feeling that you start believing. And I know people have asked you before, is there an angel on Steven Spielberg's shoulder?
I don't know. I feel very lucky, so I don't know if I'm not sure I bring myself that good luck. I felt very lucky in my life, and I feel that if there isn't, there should be. I think this movie is also about wishful thinking. It's about inspiration. You know, when the character of Pete dies and comes back, you know, he's an inspiration. People can't see him or hear him, but he can get his feelings into their thoughts as if it's their own ideas. And I've always believed in inspiration, because I felt inspiration in my life from time to time. And I kind of like to give myself credit, but I like to also think, but is that Raoul Walsh maybe that told me to do that, or is that, you know, who is that? Was that Q Gore, or was that Preston Sturges? You know, I've played with that notion of ghosts not being semi-visible walking through walls, but perhaps just being an essence of an existence that whispers something in your ear and makes you do something. A tap on the shoulder, a little kiss on the cheek.
Okay, kid, you got a chance. Don't screw it up.
I'm gonna like this job.
Steven Spielberg may have an angel on his shoulder, but he sure had some hits at the box office. Richard Dreyfuss and Holly Hunter star in his latest, called Always. Today, a look back at some old film friends with the Spielberg touch. Bill Harris in Hollywood, hoping it's a great new year for you and yours. We'll talk again.
To us.
Always.